Join nearly 1,400 entrepreneurs and students at the 2013 Collegiate Entrepreneurs Organization National Conference in Chicago, October 31st through November 2nd. Visit CEO.org for more information. That's C-E-O.org.
This is Michael Lukes with the Collegiate Entrepreneurs Organization, joined by Urban Brain and Body owner and founder Seth Franz, who will also be speaking at the upcoming 2013 CEO National Conference. Seth, good to talk with you again.
Hey, great to talk with you.
I want to thank you for agreeing to speak to students at the 2013 CEO National Conference, which will be October 31st through November 2nd. Tell us a little bit about Urban Brain and Body.
Well, Urban Brain and Body provides services to clients as well as to health and wellness providers through several different components. The three components are a wellness clinic where we feature a mind-body connection. Basically, we believe that to get a whole person, you need to have a great connection with the mind and the body. We also have a network of wellness professionals and a business strategy group to help potential and established wellness businesses understand specific aspects of running a successful business. Among the three components, UBB has found a valuable niche with our wellness network, which places wellness providers in luxury high-rise residents and workplaces. And we're happy to announce that we are launching our first class for our business strategy program in January. And it's going to be focused on health and wellness groups and really helping them develop their ideas and take it to fruition and help them create that business that they would love to own and run.
Great. And just to give the listener a little bit of a background, last time we talked, we discussed how you were working for a family-owned clinic, and then you decided you wanted to launch Urban Brain and Body. So I wanted to follow up a little bit on that. So what were the steps you took to launch Urban Brain and Body after knowing that this was what you wanted to do?
Well, I first started by researching everything that I needed to know about the legal aspects, permits, licenses, and the legal structure, just to ensure that I was going forward with it in the correct fashion, so that I wasn't going to run into anything that would stop me in my tracks. And after I had a good grasp on that, I made a budget of what I needed in order to open my office, and then another budget in order to figure out what I needed to run my office. And I funded that with my savings combined with a small loan from a family member, which allowed me to open my doors and really get it up off the ground. It took about 6 months of prep work for me. I did run into a couple pitfalls. The first location that I had, it was a white box, meaning it was blank inside. I was going to be able to design it the way I wanted to, but the builders and the broker just kept pushing my opening back further and further because they weren't pulling the right permits and they didn't get the city to approve. So I basically ran into the same thing that I prepped for. It was extremely frustrating in that beginning. However, I just kind of said, you know what? It happens for a reason, and I ended up finding a location that was 100 times better. So that pushed my start back a little bit, but that's okay. It's one of those things that you just kind of have to take in stride, especially when starting your own business. And since I was starting the company on my own, I knew that it was going to succeed or fail based on what I did. So I just had to accept what had happened and kind of move forward with it and say, okay, one big speed bump, but it's not the end of the world, and it did turn out for the better.
And what will you be speaking about at the CEO National Conference?
Every startup has a pivot point, and a pivot point is a point where the founders decide to pivot or move into a different direction when faced with a real-life market. So you've run through all the beta tests, you've talked to different people, but once you're actually live, you hit a pivot point, and so what I'll be talking about is when to pivot and when to persevere. Sometimes staying the course is the correct action. Sometimes you have to pivot and find a new market, find a new niche, find a new client, revamp your product a little bit. And so that's really what I'm going to be talking about and trying to figure out the best way to go about that and to figure out when you should pivot or when you should persevere.
So then following up on pivots a little bit, explain a little of how you recognized the pivot was needed in your company and how you went about implementing that pivot after deciding on what to pursue.
Well, I've had two major pivot points in my since I've launched UBB, Urban Brain and Body. And the first was about 3 months into owning UBB. We were really struggling to attract clients. The clients we had were thrilled, but bringing in a relatively new technology like neurofeedback to our clients is difficult at best. And neurofeedback is a way to help you train your brain to process through trauma, to process anxieties, depression. It really helps you function at a higher level. But it's a relatively new technology and didn't have too many adapters. So I asked myself if I was going to pivot and see if I could figure out a way to bring in more clients or persevere and write it out, and really say, okay, well, this is the product. I've got to move forward with it. I've got to continue. And I couldn't do that. I looked at the market. I looked at where I was at and where I should be going, and I ended up pivoting. And so that's kind of where I started the network with the healthcare providers. So I'd already had a big network working with a lot of chiropractors, massage therapists, physical trainers, personal trainers, pretty much everybody in the wellness continuum. And I decided that if I can't get people to come to me, I'm going to go to them. And so I launched the network by developing a corporate package as well as a network to take our product to luxury high-rise buildings. And since I couldn't do it alone and since I couldn't take the neurofeedback and our wellness center alone to all these different places, I decided to partner up with a lot of other people. And I had to adapt, and that's really the major pivot point, the first pivot point that I hit. And so far it's worked out really well. And I do believe that if I would have stayed the course and said, okay, I'm just going to push through this and we're going to get clients eventually, that I wouldn't be here today and my doors would be closed.
What's the difference between pivoting and starting a completely different and new business?
Well, in my opinion, pivoting is much easier than starting a business or a new business, I guess. Pivoting is kind of a mentality shift, if you will. It's so you can explore your options and change how or why to do something. It's okay to end up somewhere completely unexpected. Wrigley Gum, for example, they started off selling products such as soap and baking powder. And in order to sell more baking powder, they packaged it with chewing gum. And the gum became more popular. Talk about a pivot. I mean, what's Wrigley known for now? It's the gum. And so you just kind of have to seize those opportunities versus trying to create a new product and going through the legal structure of starting a new business, building a business plan, building a marketing plan, everything else. If you can avoid that by changing your product or changing your mentality, it is much easier. However, you have to watch out for is it something that you can do within that same company? Is the same structure? Is it the same way that you're going to do your original product or service? Can you still create that in the model that you have? And if you can't, then it might be better off to start your own business. But it's really all about adapting to your clients and to your product.
So kind of building off of that is, how can someone really tell if they can adapt to that pivot within their current model or if they should start a completely different business or pursue a different idea?
They really have to ask themselves if you have a viable product or service. I mean, when it comes down to it, it can be a great idea. It can be a fantastic service, but if nobody wants it or if you can't get it to the market that you really want, you might need to pursue something else. And that's going to be a tough question, but it's something that you have to kind of take the emotion out of. And I know that starting your own business is an emotional thing. You're invested in it. It's your baby. But you really have to ask, does it need to be tweaked? Are you getting good feedback from clients that say you could have a great product if this or that changed? Is there something you can do? In other words, focus on a niche, change a feature, or bolster customer service? Have you priced yourself out? Is it going to cost more for you to get the product off the ground than you can feasibly raise? If any of that's true, you may want to pursue another idea. But that's really where you're going to have to trust your clients, trust your market, go out there, see if it's feasible, and if it's not, cut your losses and move on. You've got the experience of creating the product and creating a business. Take that to another project.
Why are you volunteering your time to speak to students at the CEO National Conference?
When I was in college, I dreamed of being an entrepreneur, but I didn't think I could because I didn't know how, didn't have the resources, didn't have anybody to really encourage me. I want to do that. If I would have started right out of college, I really would have enjoyed it. Even if I would have started in college, I had great people that I could have worked with. My experience would have been a little bit different. That doesn't mean that I've had a bad experience. I did get a lot out of the corporate world when I was there, but there was a lot of second guessing when I first started this and hearing, well, that's not the way we do things in the corporate world, or we're going to do this because this is the way it's been done. You kind of get in that mentality. And I second guess myself all the time when I first started just because, well, that's not the way we should do things, or that's thinking a little bit outside the box. Is that really going to work? And I think that if you come straight out of college and you still have that mentality of, the sky's the limit, that baggage doesn't come with it. And so I really want to help encourage and help talk to these different college students and say, look, there are resources out there. There's no time better than now to do this. You've got all the resources. Don't let money stop you. Don't let time stop you. If you want to make it happen, you can make it happen.
Great. Well, once again, this is Michael Lukes with Seth Franz, and Seth will be at the 2013 CEO National Conference. Seth, thanks a lot for your time, and I look forward to seeing your talk.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.